and how to lose and how to choose.
Well, hello, this is Linda Carbonell from Walking Through Life TV show. Once again, I have for my guest, Lieutenant Deputy Chief.
Deputy Chief.
Oh, just Deputy Chief?
Just Deputy Chief.
Oh, see, I put Lieutenant in there.
That's okay.
It's all right? Okay.
I've been called worse.
Okay. It's from the Hartford Police Department, right? The last time we talked about prescription drugs. This time we're going to talk about
Domestic violence. And
domestic
some issues
violence.
surrounding domestic violence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's important, but one of the things I wanted to ask first, and I think that people are, unsure what they should do if they witness domestic violence and the safety around those issues.
Oh, yeah. The best thing that anybody can do is just be a good witness. I caution anybody a lot of the times, especially if it involves a child, they want to get right in there and get involved and stop it. And not only can they be hurt, but you don't know how the people that are involved in the domestic squabble are going to react to somebody trying to intervene, and a lot of times it can make it worse.
Yeah, because anybody putting their foot in there. Right. Plus, not only that, the abuser could just run off and not be there when the police get there.
Correct. Yeah. So, again, if they could just be a good witness, and
But stay away from right in that area.
Yeah, stay away from what's going on.
What's some of the things that they can witness that would be helpful?
A lot of the times in a domestic situation, any witness is usually going to be familiar with the people, be it a neighbor or a family member. So that's one aspect where they can just, remember what was being said and, who hit who, if there's any physical violence, who the aggressor was, because a lot of the times those are conflicting stories once the police show up on scene. Some other things they can witness if it's not a person that's known to them, like if there's a neighbor of a male or a female and they have a new friend or spouse or whatever come in to visit, then they may not know who the person is, so then maybe they could just get descriptors and plate number if the person's leaving or whatnot.
And when they are to witness some of the things, when they're hearing what the aggressor is saying or whatever, is that something that's valuable to the police?
Absolutely.
If they hear that stuff.
Absolutely, because not only does it lend credibility to the affidavit when we do get involved as to what actually transpired, but it could tell the story basically. And that's what we try to do in our affidavits that ultimately go to court, is we try to tell the story as factual as it happened. So anything that's heard, be it even if it's a slap or a punch, sometimes you can hear that.
Yeah.
And if both people on the scene are saying nothing happened, because a lot of the times, people in abusive relationships are caught in that cycle and they don't want to get their partner in trouble, so they say, oh, nothing happened. But if there's a witness that, said, no, I heard a slap and I heard crying or screaming or yelling or whatever, that's a good descriptor to put in the affidavit.
That helps.
Right,
that
absolutely.
helps. You'd be surprised. And, and I know people care so much about children, they want to go and save the children, like you were saying, right? But that is dangerous. But it's also, it could put the child in very bad danger.
Right,
very bad
because once, say, God forbid, it is a child that's involved in an abusive situation, is what could happen is if somebody were to intervene, then it could make it worse after everything was said and done, because the abuser could be like, now look what you went and did.
To the child.
You got the neighbors over here, they think we're bad people, and the abuse could be worse and continue. So again, it's just good to stay out of it and just report things.
But is there some things that's good for people to be helped? Say if somebody fell or something like that, it's good for them to go over and help somebody like that.
Yeah, again, I would caution anybody to get involved, even
helping.
Even helping at that point, because the attacker could then turn on that person and just make it worse. So, as hard as it is to stay out of that type of situation, the best thing to do again is just call 911 and be a good witness. And domestic violence, unfortunately, it's very prevalent in our society.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it doesn't go it doesn't either go reported or it doesn't get the attention. You know, when people think domestic violence, they think of lower income families, but you'd be surprised the amount of domestic situations that, you know, in high income families, no matter what the demographic or geographic location is. You know, we've been to all villages in the town for, you know, domestic violence situations, so it's not just to one demographic.
And domestic violence also is considered like the yelling, the screaming, the...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't need physical abuse.
Right.
There's mental abuse, and it's tough, especially on children. You know, being in a volatile, violent household could lead to depression for the child. It could lead to them acting out. You know, they can grow up practicing what they see. So there's a lot of indicators that, you know, as educators and teachers, you know, various groups that interact with the children need to look out for in those instances.
And that's important,
Yeah, that's very important. As well, you know, if the child's involved in the abuse, obviously there may be signs, physical signs, as well as the mental signs, the drops in homework and other such things. But, you know, you could have bruises and other things, and the stories that, you know,
It doesn't match up,
it doesn't match up. So, you know, those are things to look out for as well when we're talking about children.
Right, and if you're somebody on the outside and you see something, you notice something like that, best thing is not get involved in that, but also report it to somebody.
Right.
If you happen to
absolutely.
be suspicious that something's going on.
And on the flip side of, you know, not just being a child, you could have a male or a female, and you're a coworker of that person, and, you know, if you see some kind of signs like withdrawal or, you know, change in work habits, work pattern, calling in sick a lot, there could be other things going on, but as well, you know, it could be a domestic situation.
And how easy, that's not easy to approach somebody and ask them if they've been abused or...
No, it's kind of tough to do that, but, you know, again, if they're going to do that, you know, just let them know that they're there for them as a friend, and they'll help them through it, and you know, just don't report it and let it be, but you know, give support to the person.
Yeah, and there's a lot available for women like WISE, and there's a lot of child services available.
We're very fortunate to have a lot of services right in this general location, being our demographic in Windsor County. We're kind of the hub. Yep. So we have HCRS, the Haven, WISE of the Upper Valley. We have a lot of good organizations here and outreach services for that.
Yep. We have the Junction.
Absolutely. The Junction Teen Center is another good place. Because a lot of the times, if you're a child of domestic violence, you know, you may not feel comfortable talking to
anybody in authority or anything.
Somebody in authority or something. So a good way to get that out is, you know, talking to
people that have been
peers at the Junction, and you know, those folks down there do a wonderful job, and then they can relay the information.
Yeah.
Because it's all the organizations are kind of interconnected, working closely. The schools, the Junction Teen Center, HCRS, and, you know, they
Yeah, I think it's scary to report to the police something that you witnessed too.
Right.
That's kind of scary too, because you're not sure.
Right,
You know, if the person's going to find out that you said
Right.
something, or
Right. A lot of times the person doesn't want to get involved, because
Exactly.
ultimately is what does happen. If you make a report to the police department and an arrest comes out of it, and your name goes in the report, once it gets to court, it's public record, and, you know, a lot of the people are afraid of retaliation.
Yeah.
So even if they call up and say, hey, I'm just reporting this anonymously, this is somebody to look into, or, you know, something's going on, it's better than not reporting at all, because you don't want to get involved.
But they can do that. They can call you and say, this is an anonymous call.
Absolutely. This is an
what I've
anonymous
seen.
call. You know, I hear this going on, or yelling or screaming or whatever going on in such and such apartment. At least it gets the help there to stop what's happening.
Right.
As opposed to, hey, I don't want to get involved. That's, you know, what's their business.
Yeah.
And that
But
doesn't
actually,
help.
no, I feel that way too, because if you don't try to do something, that situation's going to continue on and on and on and on and on.
Absolutely. And even if the caller does call up and say, this is so-and-so, and this is what's going on, and they're a witness. When that ultimately does become public record and go to court, there are things called like conditions of release. When that person has conditions set on them, it'll say you can't interfere with the person that made the report as well. So.
Yeah. What's some of the other things that people can do if they witness something going on, and maybe they're not right near a phone to report it or anything like that? Like you said, be a good witness or whatever. But
Well, in that case,
maybe run to a neighbor or somewhere that,
right.
that do, yeah.
And if nothing more, at least follow up and say, hey, something happened today, and we may say, yeah, we've got several calls on it. That person may have witnessed something that the other callers didn't. So at least follow up and just, don't just say, well.
And the more witnesses, the better.
Right,
If you have,
absolutely.
the more witnesses you have, the better.
Absolutely.
So, don't be
So
afraid to call.
it's always good to follow up. And
Right.
At least call and give their name and information and say,
Because even
I
if there's
understand
6
that-
different callers,
Right.
there's 6 different callers. You don't have to know how many callers there is, as long as you're putting your part in there to
Right.
just call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be a good witness, do the follow-up and call and ask, did anybody report this? And yeah, we may have had several calls on it, but they can tell their side of the story and at least be a witness. And, if they think that maybe somebody else called and maybe they didn't. And
That's right. Don't kick that can.
they could be, hey, did you get a call on this? No, we didn't. This is the first time we heard of it. So, yeah, we got to work together with the community and,
Absolutely.
every little bit helps.
Because being a good witness helps you guys,
Absolutely.
help them. Yeah.
Yep.
It's just so important, I think, too.
Absolutely. And like I said, domestic violence, unfortunately, it's especially now with the economy the way it is, and a lot of people have lost their jobs or taken pay cuts. There's a lot of stressors in life going on. Even after Irene affected this community, I'm sure those folks are under a lot of stress that were involved in that. So it's we don't condone it, obviously, but if somebody needs help, we'll get them the help.
They got to ask for it.
Yeah.
And there is help for people that are, aggravated or agitated
Absolutely.
or whatever. There is help for them. And it's a better option to admit that you might need that help. Maybe go get that help.
Right. And so,
Rather than to-
unfortunately, in any crime that occurs, sometimes a crime is just a cry for help.
Yes, exactly.
So when the abusers do get down to court, if they have a problem, then, it's good to have that recognized and say, hey, I messed up, but, I'll take my lumps, but at least I'll get help so it doesn't happen again.
And there is all kinds of help. There's
Absolutely.
there's
There's
support group, anger management.
Anger
there's-
management, support groups,
Yeah.
there's a lot of help out there
Yeah,
for domestic
absolutely.
violence situations.
I think that's just so important. I think it's important for people to realize that, if you know that child abuse is going on, that's a particular time that you should be reporting it. But again, I think that the area of trying to go save the child is, it's just not, like you said, it's not safe to do that, and it's not safe for the child either. And I think that's a lot what people are missing, is that it's not safe for the child too.
Absolutely.
child being
that
like you
can, again, everybody wants to get involved.
Yeah.
If you see something happening. But, again, I caution
I've
anybody
heard-
that wants to just jump right in and,
I've heard, well, you're not a mother, are you?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, no, I'm not a mother.
yeah, but you know wrong from right,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a tough situation to be involved in.
And if you do want to get involved in children's lives, there's a way of going about doing that properly, such as maybe volunteering at the Haven where they had child stuff going on, the daycare up there or
Absolutely.
whatever. You can help
there's
children there
lots
that
of
are
ways to get
homeless.
involved in
You
the,
know,
in
you
the
can-
community and help
Yep, you
in other
can
ways.
donate to services that help children. There's all kinds of ways of doing that part, so you can really know that you're being helpful
Right,
there too.
absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of activities and outreaches that folks
Yep.
in the community can get involved in.
Yeah.
And it's sad and unfortunate that our communities recently we've had 3 teenage suicides. And, you know, I don't intricately know what each one was, you know, their involvement was as far as what the stressors were in their lives. But, you know, getting back to domestic violence, that could lead to depression, and it could lead, you know, these kids into thinking suicide's the answer. So it doesn't help anybody to let things just go undealt with and unnoticed. So it's important to be involved as a community as much as you can.
And you know, this is another way we can help too, because I know that there's a big sister, little sister program,
Right.
big brother program, and sometimes, you know, I had a big sister when I was growing up. It was great because I had somebody else that I could talk to, you know, and if I had a problem, I could share it with her. And,
Right.
you know, it's so those, but you need to go through the proper channels to become a sister brother, or sister or a big brother. You need to do that.
Right.
But if you're willing to do that, you can help. You can help children so much by doing that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
It's always good to have, you know, the support. Like we were talking, the children don't always feel comfortable going to somebody in authority or even an adult.
Yeah.
So if you have that big sister, big brother program, that's good. And they, you know, the schools have a program similar to that with the reading buddies that, you know, they have somebody
people
come
in
in
the community. Yeah.
and the kids feel, you know, maybe they could talk to them.
Yeah.
So every little bit helps.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's other forms of abuse too, like if, say there's somebody on the street that's making advances to children or to other people or whatever, that's a form of abuse too. It's not harassment, but it's, what is that called when they make sexual remarks or things like that?
Well, there's different categories. Obviously, you know, if somebody is on the street doing that, we could have a real problem.
Yeah.
Because you know they could be a previous sex offender. So, but there's various categories. You know, so if anybody hears any of that happening as well, it could be nothing. You know, it could be just a quabble between somebody and they're making some comments or whatever. But if we have somebody in public that's routinely doing that,
seeing it,
right? You know, we could have,
especially if they're doing it 2 or 3 times, or
right,
or making it a habit.
You know, by virtue of all the services here in town and where we are located with the bus stop and the train station, we do have a homeless population as well, and sometimes we do get, we'll call them vagrants, that come in that, you know, they're not from this area, but they have either some mental issues or they have some other issues, and they start causing scenes and being disorderly here. And we've been through it before, and we're going through it now again, where, you know, we have another new person here in town that's causing some issues, and again, we try to intervene and get the help for them. But you know, a lot of the times you will see these people on the street yelling and screaming and you know, yelling.
And
at
again,
people.
that's what it's good for. The police is good for that.
Right.
But I think if people also understand that mental illness is, that's just not a cure for it. I mean, it's just not easy to.
Yeah,
it's not easy to help somebody that don't want help.
Right.
Know?
It's
kind of like
road.
the alcoholic. You can't tell them what they have to do or whatever.
You know, the first step is to recognize you have a problem and that you want help.
Recognize it, exactly.
You know,
it's the same thing with mental illness.
Right. And a lot of the times the people just may not be on their medication. And,
exactly.
You know,
yeah.
Intervention to get them back on their medication is what they need.
It's sad. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that, you know.
So what can people in the community do when they see somebody like that that's homeless and maybe is having some mental health issues?
Again, just, you know, make the report it to us, and like I said, we're now, in the past few days, we've been dealing with another new person that has arrived in our town. I'm not really sure where they came from at this point, but they've had some various issues in other states, and they wound up here, so we're dealing with them now.
Well, I hope and pray that you can get them help, or that they will see that they need help.
Yeah, that's what we try to do.
They will be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. Well, we know you're out there and you're doing your, you know, you're out there taking care of it, or trying to anyway.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And you know, getting back to the domestic violence thing, you know, another thing I'd like to say is not for people not to feel ashamed. And, you know, we said that about the suicide issue, where you actually just got to talk about it. And it's the same with the domestic violence. You know, because people have problems. Everybody's human. And if there is a problem, somebody may not normally react in that way, but all the stressors in life just led them to snap, so to speak. And you know, it's nothing to be ashamed about. If you're a person that's being abused, you know, don't try to hide it. Try to get the help, not only for you, but for the person that's doing the abusing, because it doesn't help anybody to just.
No, and I'm sure that it hurts very much for the abuser too to be abusing too. You know, I mean, that's just especially if that's not typically you.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so don't. You know, I'd let anybody know not to just, you know, say, well, maybe I deserved it, and just not report it. You know, it doesn't help that person, because they could get stuck in that cycle.
Exactly.
And it doesn't help the abuser. And you know, even if they get out of the situation, that's great that they got out, but that person could then move on and abuse somebody else. So it's at least good to talk about it and not feel ashamed about it.
Yeah. I think it's so important too, and the lines of communications have got to be open between everybody, and I just think you guys are doing a wonderful job of that. And I know that I was approached by somebody from the Victims Advocate Department here, and they're going to be coming on and doing a show about what they do.
Yeah. Pam Weigel?
Pam Weigel, yes, she's been on the show before.
Yeah.
So she's going to come back. She's going to get a few people to come back and talk about all these issues, which I think is wonderful, and it would open the eyes of some. You know. Yeah,
it's it's prevalent, but it's one of those things where back in the olden days, people used to say, well, that's their own business, that what happens behind closed doors. But you know, in today's society, everything it's intermingled, and it's
it is our business, though. We don't want it. We don't want this in our society, and we want to be good people that can help stop that. But rather than get immediately involved by calling and you know, by not calling, by going there, which you shouldn't do. Rather, you should call and just give all the information that you have. Yeah, that's the best way that you can help. And
absolutely, even being, you know, sometimes best friends try to get involved, and you know, if you think there's an issue, then you know, report it, talk to somebody, you know, and quietly, I guess you can talk to the person that's being abused, and you know, try to talk to them and see what help they need. But you know,
if they're open to it, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to recognize there's a problem first.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah. Sometimes that's really difficult.
Absolutely.
For a lot of us, you know, it's difficult to see that. You know?
And take the first step. You know. So it's. Again, it's, you know,
it takes a very brave person to be able to take that first step, because
it
is a big step, and it is, you know, it's like mental illness has a big stigma behind it. You know, it's the same thing for asking for help, because you're admitting there's something wrong, but by admitting that's how you begin to heal. That's how you're able to begin to heal.
Yeah. You know, and you mentioned stigma. Everything can have a stigma.
And it does.
And by virtue, it does. And it's, you know, it's time for people to stop feeling that way with anything, with, you know, the teen suicide problem that we have, with domestic violence. You know, if people need help, people need help. That's the bottom line. You know, and there's always tons of organizations popping up every day that are there for, you know, support groups for different things that,
there's a lot of them.
You know, you find out is now becoming a problem. So before, it may not have been so prevalent, and so then they have another support group that opens up for whatever the current issue is. So there's always help out there for people.
Absolutely, you got to look into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So next time we're going to talk about. We're going to find some more. I know a lot of people have been watching these shows here. So I think what I'd said the last time was we were going to find some different topics to cover. So this is the one we came up for this time, and I know you and I are going to be speaking, see what the next topic should be. So I want to encourage everybody out there to keep looking or keep watching, and know that you're going to be coming back, you know.
Yeah, and if you have your viewers, I don't know if they can write into you or call into you and
Yeah, they send me a lot of...
see what their topics they would like to
Right,
hear
what would
about.
they like to be covered? Yeah, absolutely. And they can get a hold of me at home. They can email me. So my home phone number is 295-0997. My computer, my email is walklife@comcast.net. And you can also call here at the studio if you have any questions, or if you want to find out about different shows or shows that Brad's done here, or if you're interested in being a guest on Just Walking Through Life, you can call here too at the studio, and they'll give you all that information. You can get copies of the past show. You can also go on their website and get copies. So I would suggest you, for copies or anything like that, you call CATV, which their number is 295-6688. I got that right, I think. And if people are interested in talking to you more about this,
Oh yeah,
and
they can call or stop by.
Just call the
anytime.
police department,
Yep,
yeah.
right up at the
Just-
police department.
just stop up there and talk to you. And it's so easy sitting here talking to you. It's
Oh yeah, I
really
could
cool.
sit here for
Sometimes
weeks. and
uniforms scare you. If
Well,
we're just people.
You know, it's tough. People shouldn't be afraid of the uniform. We're human too, you know.
I know, exactly, but, you know, sometimes they're afraid to report or afraid to, you know, talk about what's going on with them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully we can open the line of communication so that people won't have that big fear.
Absolutely.
I think it would be great.
Good.
Well, thank you
All right.
again.
Thank you for having me
We'll
again.
see you the next time around.
Okay.
You guys keep watching, because we're going to have more shows with can I just call you Brad?
Absolutely.
Oh, Brad. See, Brad. And if you noticed during the show, he had a fly that was flying around him. So that was my fault, though, because I probably left the door open. But anyway, that was the funny thing for today. So anyway, this is Linda Carbonell, and we're going to see you next time on Walking Through Life. And keep watching. We've got a lot of new shows coming up on Walking Through Life. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Walking through this life of mine, well, it's teaching me so many things, like how to love and how to lose and how